Welcome to the Process Breakdown Podcast, where we talk about streamlining and scaling operations of your company, getting rid of bottlenecks, and giving your employees all the information they need to be successful at their jobs. Now, let's get started with the show.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, host of the Process Breakdown Podcast, where we talk about streamlining and scaling operations of your company, getting rid of bottlenecks, and giving your staff everything they need to be successful at their job. And before I introduce Jamie Ramsden, Jamie, I always like to mention past episodes people should check out. If you have heard of the book out there, David Allen, Getting Things Done by David Allen, it's one of my favorites. We had him on the podcast. We had Michael Gerber of the E-Myth and many, many more great guests. So I'm excited for today. This episode is brought to you by SweetProcess. If you've had team members ask you the same questions over and over again, and it's the 10th time you spent explaining it, Jamie, I think you also know there is a better way. There's a solution. And SweetProcess is a software that makes it drop dead easy to train and onboard new staff and save time with existing staff. I was talking with one of the owners, Owen. Not only do universities, banks, and hospitals and software companies use them, but actually first responder government agencies use them in life or death situations. So I'm like, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. And you can use SweetProcess to document all the repetitive tasks that eat up your precious time so you can focus on growing your team and your company. And there's a free 14-day trial, no credit cards required. You can go to sweetprocess.com. It's sweet like candy, SWEET process.com. I'm excited. We have Jamie Ramsden. He's worked at Turkstra Lumber for 26 years. And this was after Jamie finished his undergrad math degree, which has everything to do with lumber, right, Jamie? And he's had the opportunity to do just about every single job at the company, from delivery driver to manager to Lean Six Sigma champion. And he works as part of the executive team there, supporting strategic initiatives through the business intelligence. And Turkstra Lumber serves the building industry and focuses on trades and contractors and builders, but they help everyone and who sell materials so companies can build, essentially. And they provide everything after the foundation's poured, everything on up from there. They provide that. Jamie, thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's nice to be here.
So tell me just a little bit more about Turkstra Lumber and what you do.
Yeah. So, well, Turkstra has been around for quite a while. We're a family business still. We're approaching 70 years in business, and our company focuses on, we're a service-oriented company, even though we sell materials. Since we, one of our primary focus groups is the trades and builders, we provide a lot of service details to go around the products that everyone is familiar with and needs to do a renovation, build a deck, or build a house for that matter. So we help with design and quoting and choosing materials and making sure things get to the job site at the right time to coordinate with other things that might be going on.
Just to give people an idea of the size and the structure, what kind of departments do you have within the company?
Sure. So we have a number of lumber yards, traditional lumber yards that ship materials, sell materials, plywood, studs, insulation, those kind of core things. But we have some other branches as well, or divisions, if you like. So we do manufacture roof trusses. We have a moldings mill where we make wood into wood trim. We have a trim and door division that specifically deals with interiors and things like that. And then we have a number of other small manufacturing operations as well.
You were nodding alongside with me when I was saying the thing about processes and SweetProcess. How do you think about process and systemization in the company?
So our industry is typically not leading edge when it comes to these kinds of things. And a number of years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we realized that, hey, why don't we be a little bit more current in our thinking? And one of the things that you can't do very well, or one of the things that prevents you from being current and doing things better than you do now, is when you don't actually know what your processes are, or if everybody is not on the same page, or people do things differently in different branches. So we started learning about lean as a concept. Some people might be familiar with that. And we became more sophisticated in the way we approached strategic initiatives and planning. And so at some point, we needed something to help us rein in all those processes that we thought we all knew, but realized we weren't coordinated about.
So when you started off on that journey, what did you do? What was the first thing you did?
So we started off on that journey, and what we did was start the same project about 8 times, and then it drifted off. Because it is surprisingly hard to get a group of people together and understand not just how to get a hold of your processes, rein them in, but really what that really even means. Like, what is the purpose of having documentation for your processes? And in fact, finding SweetProcess, it did help us to understand the how, but it also helped us understand the what and the why a little bit, because some light bulbs went off when we had to start getting our head around how to use SweetProcess.
When you started on that journey, Jamie, did you try and document the process first and then look for a solution, or did you look for a solution first and then start to document?
No, we tried to document it ourselves, using really homemade looking Excel spreadsheets and things like that. And not that there's anything wrong with Excel or homemade looking things, but part of it is that there's no coordination there, right? You're trying to pass things around. The people who you need to participate often don't have good access to the materials you're trying to trade back and forth with them. And they certainly aren't that interested in participating that way. So you'll end up with a top-down approach that is ineffective at best. And we tried doing it on our own several times and couldn't understand why we couldn't get what we thought was a simple project.
Yeah. I could see you want to take as much friction out of the process as possible in there. So at what point how did you discover SweetProcess?
Well, so my boss, who happens to be the president, said, discover something. We need something. Like I'm tired of going around and around and coming back every year and saying, oh, we should do this project again this year. I happened to have an MBA intern with me at the time to help me do some projects. And so I asked him, I said, look, you're younger than I am. So use that young, smart brain and find me something out there. Just so go out and surf the web, ask your friends, what can we use? And we were familiar with, there's a lot of platforms out there that you might think, oh yeah, we can use that for this purpose. But he found SweetProcess, and at first I didn't understand the approach right away, and so he had to sort of convince me. And kudos to him for being persistent, because once he showed me around, I started thinking about it differently, and then I realized that this was the tool.
So, Jamie, how did he convince you? Like, what was it about it that made you pause or be skeptical in the beginning?
Because I really didn't understand what the project was. I thought I needed something like a better version of Excel that would just be easier to use to record things. But recording processes really, that's the easy part. The part you need help with is sort of a centralized repository of these things that is accessible from many points, that allows you to coordinate with all the different people that need to be involved in saying, yes, this is the way we do things, and this is the way we should do things. And I give you a thumbs up on this because it agrees with my perspective, all those kinds of things. So that's, I think, why I initially didn't understand what SweetProcess was, because I wasn't even understanding those parts of it. Owen himself had a chat with me a couple of times to say, like, look, this is, he said, I'm not going to tell you how to do things, but this is how you should do it, and so it kind of turned me around. The thing that caught my attention first was just something simple and visual, which is that SweetProcess automatically makes you a little flow chart as you enter your steps for any process. And that might seem to be just eye candy, but it does make it, people understand things in different ways. And a lot of our staff really like that they can get a visual representation immediately to go along with the recipe, if you like, for any particular step. So that kind of drew me in, because I knew that would be the case, that people would like that. And once that happened, I was ready to have a conversation about the stuff that's a little bit harder to get your head around.
Yeah. So you were getting buy-in from other people in the team as you were using this?
Yeah,
like
no,
you saw it was easier. It was easier for them to use.
Absolutely. Once I understood and then took it to the team, there was no, like, people were sort of like, well, shut up now. Yes, let's use it. You don't have to keep explaining. This is clearly the right, like, this will clearly help us. So then we jumped in with both feet.
That's great. So what did Owen tell you, or when he said, this is how you should be using it or how you should be doing it? What did he say?
Sure. Well, the most important thing was that he said, this is not about you handing down the recipe for how to run your business. Your business knows how to run itself. And that comes from your subject matter experts, or the people in the front lines. Be like, so what it's critical for you to do is not silo this, or not put this in a glass box and make it like, the commandments from on high. This is something that your people are going to keep telling you how to do, because it's going to change, and you want to open it up. If anybody shouldn't touch it, it's me. I don't know. So that's a big part of the thinking behind the design of SweetProcess, as far as I can see. And that's what's progressive about it, is companies like ours in our particular industry. We didn't start with that kind of thinking. We're coming to that.
I could see, Jimmy, how that's a relief and freeing in a sense, where it takes kind of this huge bear off of your back, like you feeling you need to create it all. I'm wondering what your perception is, but if someone told me like, oh, wow, like that's totally freeing, I could just have the people do their thing and document what they're doing. Yeah.
Once you get over the fear that, if you're a control freak, and not saying I am and not saying I'm not, but then once you get over the fear of allowing other people to get their hands in, it is freeing. But it's more than freeing. It's doing it the right way. There's not a lot of value in, like, as you mentioned, the task of documenting everything you do is gargantuan. So one person should not attempt that. But even worse is the task of, like, keeping that up to date and relevant is impossible.
It's impossible.
So why do that? Why do all that work once when you know that 6 months, a year from now, it will already be significantly incorrect or out of date? So really the key is to flip that around in your mind and have it come from the opposite direction. And that the other important thing about it is getting buy-in and from your entire organization happens when you involve people, not the other way around. Otherwise, it's just a chore that you're imposing on people over top of their daily activities. And the one that they're going to pick is the one that gets them paid their job. They're never going to choose documenting their job over doing their job. So that's why SweetProcess has to be something more than just a fancy way of writing down all the things you do. Mm-hmm. And that's what it has managed to be, is a way that employees of all stripes can make corrections and can participate.
How do you explain it to get buy-in? It seemed like when you open it up to your staff and company, they were immediately like, yeah, let's just get in and use it. So it seemed like there wasn't too much explanation needed. Or was there anything else you needed to go over with them to get them to start using it?
We wanted to show people, like, we have most of our employees do not sit at a desk during the day. They actually do things. They actually are out there making things happen. So, so playing around with the software is maybe not something that is their first and most familiar skill set. So we did want to give them a little bit of help to understand how to easily put in screenshots or links to other things or whatnot. But really, that's just kind of basic stuff that really doesn't have to do with SweetProcess in particular. What we had to, the people we needed to explain things to were people like myself, and it's really a team that we need to be continually remembering that that it's not something for us to accomplish on our own or at all, really. So, and that's something it takes a while to remember that and to embed that in your day to day. But I think good managers already know that. So for some of us, it was easier than others.
Give me a good example, Jamie, of someone using it who maybe isn't sitting at a desk and how they use it that helps their job or the company.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So right now we're in the middle of a software migration for our main ERP application. So, which for us is just about everything. So it's a big job. And I realized last year when we were considering whether it was the right time to go ahead with this, that we needed to, first of all, be very sure that the package we were considering really does do the things we need it to do. And in the past, I've been through these before, and you sort of take your best look and you ask for demo after demo. You hope you've asked all the right questions, and then you know that you'll really know when you go live. So a little bit scary. We negotiated a sort of a testing period with this software. So we had an opportunity to actually go in, set it up a little bit, and then start to test it. But of course, as the admin for this project, I realized, well, I've got to provide some kind of goalposts. Like, when does it pass the test, and what is the test? You send people in there, just say, go try it out and tell me if it works. That is not a recipe for success. And then I realized, look, the thing that we need to test against is our SOPs. So that's how, so people, this is one example, people who are on my testing team for this software implementation now have, as part of their day-to-day, some time dedicated to testing it. They know what to test by looking at what's in SweetProcess. And sometimes we change what's in SweetProcess because a new package, a new software program shows us that the way we have been doing things is not necessarily the only way. We do it because that's how our current software asks us to. So it helps us sort out these concepts that are sometimes like we would probably miss entirely if we hadn't done a good job of sorting things out that way. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. It allowed you to create a process and it allowed it to be flexible with whatever you were working on.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Were there any other, Jamie, features that you found to really be helpful for you in the company inside of SweetProcess?
Yeah, well, the most important one would be just the sort of the versioning and sharing. So SweetProcess allows you to set up teams, and those people on those teams may be involved with actually entering the information for a process, but many of those people will just be on the team for you to be able to request their approval of something that you've entered, so that you make sure that you are not just including one or two perspectives, but ensuring that everybody who's affected by a process is involved somehow, at the very least, in saying, yeah, I'll stamp this as okay from my particular perspective in my department or my role in the company.
That's what you were referring to before about kind of the thumbs up, getting the thumbs up from the different people or the people that you want to check it out and make sure you get the okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it.
And that's critical.
How has it changed your typical day, you feel?
We have more work to do before it changes the steps I go through in my day, because we're pretty early on in the process. But it changed. My thinking every day is different, which is that we now, and this will maybe not seem as significant as it really is when I describe it, but that's really, to me, the biggest win is because we have SweetProcess makes standard operating procedures tangible for us, whereas in the past it was a discussion. Now
people can just jump in and do it.
Well, in the past, but suppose you have an issue, suppose something goes wrong in some part, a customer interaction, or you manufacture the wrong thing, or you charge the wrong price. In the past, our first thought would be to remedy that situation, and we'd move on and probably never learn anything from it. Now our first thought is, well, how should we have done that? Oh, wait a minute, we haven't. There's nothing in SweetProcess for that. There's something we need to document in SweetProcess. That's a totally different mindset.
Yeah, that's game changing. I think.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Game changing, because now you just revisit the process to see, well, maybe we're missing something, or some people don't have process for everything in the company always, and you realize that too.
Yeah, that's it for us. Is so we realize that because we lots of people will say this, but we have great people. We have really great people, and sometimes that's actually works to our detriment, because our people typically will just go solve things. And then we don't notice that we're lacking standard procedures and processes. And we're lacking it all over the place because we tend to just do a good job of it. But that doesn't mean that's the best way that we should be handling it. We make our people jump through hoops day after day after day, problem solving and being extra nice to customers because something went wrong, when we could have not just remedied a particular situation, but solved the problem by recognizing that there's a procedure to have in place, and let them use their excellent brains for other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with what you in the company does, there's so many moving pieces. I mean, when there's so many moving pieces all over the place, then just allowing people not to think as much for certain things is always a good thing. But it does help when you have great people. But like you said, it allows for things to get solved, without necessarily having the process there. So I love you sharing that, Jamie. And the last question is, for someone in a company thinking about operations and streamlining, what's a next step someone can take if they're listening right now that they should take to help streamline their operations?
Wow. I mean, you don't want to ask me that question because I'll talk for hours. But so the next step, if you're in the same boat as we were, I think the next step is to try SweetProcess, and very simply just start by documenting some processes that you think very well, and ideally, actually don't do it yourself. Ask your people to do it, and you'll immediately find out that you don't know what you think you did, but that sort of exercise tends to blow things up, and suddenly you just start to learn a lot about yourself as a company. And what you find is that people immediately see some benefits from that. Life is easier to even a small degree by having gone through that exercise. So you get engagement and you get improvement.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. And it can be freeing for all of the staff if they need to hand something off or need help with something. So it's not just for you or anyone else. It's for the actually people doing the work as well, because I could see how you're explaining this. Well, if they need, Jane or Tim to help, they go, hey, like I need your help on this. And it frees them up as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And we hire people and we tell them about ourselves, and then, we tell them what we expect from them. And then we, managers will discuss employee performance, and someone will say, well, how's so-and-so doing? And someone else will say, well, fine, but I don't know, that they don't seem to be accomplishing this. And then when we realize, because something like SweetProcess forces you to that, well, we've never communicated how to do it, or where they might find the resources that they need, or even what the expectation is. And that happens all over the place in small and large ways all the time. So that's another facet of it, is that people really thrive when they have clear expectations, and people want to meet those expectations. And when you make it simple for them to understand what that is, then you stop punishing them for not guessing correctly,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it. Jamie, I want to thank you. Thank you for joining me. Check out turkstralumber.com. Check out sweetprocess.com. Check out more episodes of the podcast. And thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Process Breakdown Podcast. Before you go, quick question. Do you want a tool that makes it easy to document processes, procedures, and/or policies for your company so that your employees have all the information they need to be successful at their job? If yes, sign up for a free 14-day trial of SweetProcess. No credit card is required to sign up. Go to sweetprocess.com, sweet like candy, and process like process.com. Go now to sweetprocess.com and sign up for your risk-free 14-day trial.
Hi, This is Owen, the CEO and co-founder here at SweetProcess. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast interview, actually, you know what I want you to do? Go ahead and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. That way we get more people aware of the good stuff that you get here on this podcast. Again, go on to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. Looking forward to reading your review. Have a good day.